motion that was accorded, or the earlier motion as agreed to, I call the member for Maitland.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I actually seek to move an amendment to this motion so that it reads that this House notes that despite a budget surplus, the budget fails to drive investment in regional New South Wales and fails to provide better frontline services and critical infrastructure for the regions. And I move this way, Mr. Deputy Speaker, because this budget does in fact not drive investment in regional New South Wales. I spoke yesterday in this place on the need for a strategic and comprehensive plan to fix the deepening jobs crisis in the Hunter region. What have we seen from the government's budget here? It's just more of the same: lack of action, lack of investment in the regions that they displayed over their first term of government. In this budget, the government's still not fully acquitted their commitments from the 2011 election, just in my electorate alone. We've been promised the famous Lower Hunter Regional Hospital for over 5 years now, and it's laid on the table still. We've seen the Maitland Railway roundabout, now $5 million over budget, now over time, not completed on time. In all, in the last term of the government, there was approximately $100 million worth of promises that were not completed, while unemployment has doubled in that time. And we've seen this government, Mr. Deputy Speaker, just sitting on its hands the whole 5 years. I've read the budget papers, and the $47 million in promises from the 2015 election that were made in my electorate have again continued this glacial pace of change, this glacial move towards stripping the money out into the regions. So of the $47 million promised in 2015, we see $100,000, a tiny proportion, actually committed to be spent in this budget on my electorate. It's not surprising when this comes from a government where the parliamentary secretary has threatened already not to meet any of your government's commitments in our electorate in a classic and disgusting display of taking your bat and ball and going home. What we've seen is a recycling of assets from our regions into the Sydney budget to build infrastructure in Sydney. And where, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is the money from the sale of the Newcastle port? Where's that going? And talking of ports and ships and things like that, what about the 150 workers at Forjacks at Tomago who are going home tonight knowing that they have lost their jobs? The member for Port Stephens has done so much to try and draw attention to this plight. But look at this great company, Domestic Ships, Sydney Ferries. In fact, New South Wales Government and Premier Baird structured ferry contracts to exclude the local industry. It's a disgrace. A company with over 100 years of operations, and they're going to have to sack 150 workers because of lack of government support. The government talks about getting things done cheaply. They get them built overseas. They won't build them here. They ignore the financial impacts of spending government money in local regions. They forget the multiplier effect with money being spent in their communities. They spend money at local shops. They use local services. They build up the diversity and strength of our regional economy. We've seen no investment from this government in clean energy infrastructure in the Hunter, which is a real tragedy, given that the Hunter has a fantastic and proud record of commercialising innovation on manufacturing in our community. And I draw the attention of the House, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to the inability of the Treasurer to answer the question for the member for Swansea today regarding a lack of budget infrastructure projects in her region. This government has delivered a conservative, do-nothing budget. You need to read Ross Giddens' report, which talks about the lack of stimulation of our regional economies in this budget. It's a lazy budget. It's a lack of action on infrastructure and investment in the face of a surplus. There were $47 million in promises in my region, in my electorate of the 2015 election. It's shameful that only $100,000 is going to be spent in this year. It's a snail's pace. You know, a budget is not a tortoise and a hare scenario, guys. You need to actually start spending the money in the regions to get the economy stimulated. There's 47 million reasons that you guys have to hang your heads in shame just on Maitland. You need to spend the money and spend it now and stop moving at such a glacial pace.